Welcome, friends. This is Archangel. You know what? Males abuse each other and serve females because they are deemed to have lesser value than females. Males have acted as they have throughout history because they wanted to compel relevance since they needed females. So thus they wanted to make females need them as well. Males understand their need for females, for reproduction and salvational validation, so they sequestered females to the homemaker role in order that females rely on males for protection and politicking of pack functioning. How about a little irony to enrich your day? Males are both those that birth logic and reason, as well as the premier authors and purchasers of fairy tale. Males are both the fairy tale pushers and the fairy tale junkies. The brilliance, genius, and creativity of males has conjured and quantified philosophy, scientific veins of all stripes, and refined mathematics to such a degree that we can detect and harness the invisible, such as radiation, radio, and microwaves, etc. Males truly are cerebral masterminds, as well as phenomena of physical ability. You would think that with such a pedigree of genius and level-headed reason that males would be above petty fictional yarns. However, this ignores another talent which males excel in: imagination. Males have the biggest, most inventive and creative imaginations. The male ability to dream up awe-inspiring landscapes and stories is a boon on the one hand because it provides us vividly exciting books and movies. Yet on the other hand, escape in fantasy can be a diversion away from fighting injustice, which does nothing to bring equity to the injustice we use imagination to escape in the first place. Even still, in the face of male devaluation and expendability, imagination can be a blessing, which helps to distract from the suffering of being a disliked, used, discarded creature. The paradox is that even as reasonable and logical as males are, they are the biggest believers in fairy tale. Males realize on some level that they, as male beings, are devalued and expendable, and they seek retreat to a place where they can pretend that they are not. It's a curious irony. Males have summoned the lucidity and reason to create global communications and flight, yet males completely swallow magic and embrace make-believe. And there is one fairy tale that has predictably driven male behavior throughout history. In fact, there is one fantasy that males will defend to the death, one fantasy that gives them the reward of drug highs, and one fantasy where their presence is absolutely crucial, one fantasy where they believe they are not disposable. Romance. Not surprisingly, males chase romance since they get feel-good chemicals from interaction and sexual or courtship rituals with females. And they feel less disposable because romance demands two people to exist. Romance is not just Juliet by herself. So despite all other reasonings for male behaviors and beliefs, males realize that they are worth less than females, and so seek escape from this injustice in fantasy. Males do everything in their power to keep one specific fantasy alive, one fantasy that they attach their very hopes and identities to: romance. Males hold candles for their inner fairy tales, even as they utilize logic, reason, and sobriety of thought to create and discover. And this shows males' unique duplicity, for even as they employ reason from 9 to 5, they simultaneously believe and find comfort in fairy tales after hours. Males love the fairy tales of love and special soulmates bonds between opposing polarities of a certain reproductive species. Fairy tales of stars aligned together forever, emotional and physical fidelity. The fairy tales of divinely ordained connections between sexes that hold resentments and suspicions towards the other. The fairy tales that we need another person to commune with in order to be whole and complete us as beings. The fairy tales of romantic love. So how did this all come to be? Well. Okay, story time. Once upon a time, a bird kissed a bee and voila! Romance was born. You see, some time ago, we found ourselves as beings stranded on this cruel rock floating in space. We observed that we possessed bodies that came in two flavors. One had an outie and was physically larger. The other had an innie and was a bit shorter in stature. What the heck is all this about? So, as these things go, we eventually found ourselves grouping together, and some of these opposite beings were coupling, putting the outie into the innie for a few minutes of moaning in order to make more and more copies of ourselves. This moaning and thrusting and making copies of ourselves went on for years. Then, as we became more and more cerebral, thinking more and grunting less, we began to imagine reasons for our existence and why we were split into polarities. We had no incontrovertible proof which explained existence, so we drew upon our imagination and hypothesized legends and lore. We made up and imagined special bonds and cosmic ordained connections of affections between these two types of human bodies that we found ourselves inhabiting, with no memory of how we got here or why we are the polarity that we are. As we imagined special bonds between males and females, we simultaneously enjoyed the chemical drug concoctions released within our bodies during sexual and courtship rituals between these sexes, which only further obliged us into believing that male-female relations are ordained by heaven and written in the stars. Thus romance was born, and we have been hooked ever since. That is a rough outline of how romance started. Yes, I skipped over the whole dinosaur era and the invention of the rubber chicken, but this is a nutshell, bare-bones rendering of how romance came to be, because we imagined it into fruition to explain our plight and polarity. Fast forward a bit. After enough coupling and introspection, humans came to experience animosity and manipulation between the sexes, which fables of romance could not satisfactorily explain away. And eventually people began to realize that romance was not what it was advertised to be. Yet people kept believing in special male-female emotional bonds because they knew nothing else. And besides, it was a warm and cozy story. Well, it was warm and cozy for males. You see, romance has always been a soft, chocolatey, gooey fairy tale for males to believe in. Most females have always sensed deep down that they did not care for males the way romance says that they should, and that they had this urge to use males and move on to a better one. Females on some level have always known romance as a farce that did not accurately describe or represent them or their feelings as a sex. Yet males really liked the soft, cuddly bunny illusion of romance, because in this fairy tale, males had value and females truly cared for them. So the reality of romance between the sexes became a truth that folks understood only after years of tumult. Romance is merely window dressing for barter. The real transaction going on behind the scenes was males trading toil and protection for reproductive access and affection. It was not two hearts beating as one, with rainbows weeping and sparkling stars dancing in lovers' eyes. Male-female interaction was barter, resource for affection. Males got to believe in Aphrodite romantic legends, and so long as he provided resource and protection, females played along. This is the tradition that we came from. Belief in romance, which leads to family, and families form communities, communities form societies, etc. Then generously season this dish with tools of conformity, such as religion. Then ring the dinner bell. Traditionalism/conservatism is served. And guess what? This little concoction has worked for a long time. However, eventually we came to the point where societies accrued enough wealth, technology, and scientific quantification that the romantic hypothesis of humanity utterly fell apart, especially when the innies discovered that they could live without being married to an outie. Females knew long ago that romance was farce because they are programmed with hypergamy, not male care, and they longed to go from man to man, scooping up resource, then moving on. Yet for some time these innies had to play nice and hide their true feelings in order to be provided for. But as soon as the innies no longer had to depend on the individual hairy grunting outies for their survival, they dropped this counterfeit tale of romance like a maggot-infested donut. Romance is quite a story, huh? Yet this is the game the polarities have been indulged in since time began. Manipulation. Manipulation of the other to get something from them, such as the innies manipulating the outies to get resource and protection, or the outies manipulating the innies to get affection. You see, this is where we are. Romance is phony, a joke, a forged yarn that a maturing human race has outgrown. It was cozy and nice for many, many years throughout history. Yet, like a child outgrowing their fear of the monster under the bed, the human race has outgrown romance, and most of the innies have shed this naivete. They know that sex, dating, marriage, all is about male subservience and servitude in exchange for validation, physical affection, and or reproductive access from females. Silly, huh, that the brilliant creative polarity still believes in fairy tales, while the other polarity has known for years that romance could not be, because they felt this longing to use as many males as possible for as much as they could extract from them. And this was not in keeping with the monogamous, cosmic, stars-aligned soulmates dogma of romance that the outies were so enchanted with. Well, gee, okay, fine. Romance is a farce. Great. Move on to another paradigm of human interactions, right? Well, actually, not everybody is happy with the true state of reality. Not everybody wants to move on. Males like the romance tale. They like the chemical rush of courtship and the pleasure rewards of sexual rituals. They like the physical closeness and emotional intimacy that they are leasing from females that they are with. They like the illusion of being admired and respected. Males are as silly as their romantic fairy tales. They think that because they are physically stronger, or because she plays along and acts subservient willingly, that he is somehow dominant or respected and valued. This describes the conservative traditionalist male. They want to continue the romantic game. They like the fairy tale, and such males have been trying to stymie females into continuing to play this game. Many think that by keeping females out of business or government or military or anywhere that is not the home, that they can coerce females into continuing the romantic game. Traditional males can see that their game is falling apart, and they desperately want females to get back into the demure homemaker role so that they can continue to play the traditional romance game. Conservatism will froth at the mouth, trying to pinpoint exactly where the lie of romance actually began to fall apart. Well, the quick and dirty reality is, as wealth and technology has accrued, specifically during the latter half of 20th century Earth, this abundance, never before known, also allowed females to survive without popping out kids or stroking the ego of any specific male so he would go out and kill something for dinner. And as the innies began to realize that our artificial environment of human civilization and governments favored them, as they realized that they could finally exist without playing subservient to individual males, they began to detach themselves from the romantic roles and decided to start a new societal game called female supremacy. Yet even as females rejected traditionalism and made mockery of the romance and family that males still believed in, males tried some damage control to stop romance from hemorrhaging to death, and so they tried to placate females with more perks. Hey, ladies, would you come back and play if we served, worshipped you, and gave you rights above males? Would that make you happy? Would you still talk to us and play with us at the playground? So, males began to exalt and elevate females even more than nature does in a pathetic attempt to persuade them against going full-blown feminazi and letting their inner misandrist out of its cage. You see, one result of the elevating and exaltation process has resulted in males viewing females through innocent glasses. Many males truly believe females to be exalted and spotless in purity. And if they weren't, well, we would hide and overlook their flaws and paint up these priceless works of art to match their divinity. And thus cosmetics were born. Females are spotless in action, deed, and intent, and thus presumption of motherhood and innocence, as well as all manner of protection, was dispersed upon females. And males who have been raised in the environment of female exaltation so desperately believe in it that we see the unconscious male collective enacting chivalry, equality, subservience, and zealous protection towards females today, simply to keep their fairy tales of romance and female exaltation alive, so that they may continue to subscribe to the fantasies that they were fed as a child. Romance is for males. Images of female exaltation is for males. Females playing nice and faking subservience is for males. All this is to keep the romantic fairy tale on life support for males. Males infantilize females because they believe them fragile and spotless as a child, and thus in need of protection. Males abuse and spread male devaluing propaganda, so females will attach themselves to individual males once again in order to escape the predation of the rest of this bloodthirsty sex. Males think that keeping females out of government or business or military will compel them to play their homemaker role in the romance game once again. Males persecute and blame other males for female misdeeds, for female malevolence, for female hypergamy, for female apathy, and contempt of the male sex. Males want to believe in the spotless altruistic image they inflate the female sex as being. So males enact all manner of slander and abuse of the male sex in order to keep their image of female divinity alive. If we can talk ourselves into truly seeing males as disgusting demons, then we can pretend ourselves as white knights sent to protect the fragile, virtuous baby makers. Males don't want reality. They don't want to see their goddesses without makeup on. They don't want to see their works of art burping or farting. They don't want to recognize their angel abusing or mistreating them. They want their Mona Lisa to be pure in their minds. That way they can fantasize that there is something pure that graces them in this ugly, forsaken world. Conservative males seek to stymie males through traditionalism or religious tenets in order to keep their fantasies alive. Males cause male devaluation and disposal as a side effect of trying to keep an old myth alive. Males create so much suffering amongst their brothers simply because they want to believe in tales and they want everybody around them to play along. Sorry, but the genie is out of the bottle and will not go back. Romance is fiction and females are anything but pure and divine. I'm so sorry to inform you fellas that females are not going back into the kitchen. They are done with that game. They don't need you. They can get your resource and protection without having to make you a sandwich. In chess, this is called check. So what now? Where does humanity go? The only way they can. Give females absolute equality. You see, males like to debate how we can get back the 1940s or 50s. They speculate that religion will program females back into playing subservient within the romance game. Many will assert that letting women vote was the beginning of the end. As females began decrying attachment to males, males elevated females even more to attract them back into the romance game. Look, see, we will give you chivalry and equality. Please come back. When equality did not work, there was only one thing left for males to offer females: supremacy. When they were not content with equality, males started giving them more rights and societal courtesies over males in order to please them, quiet down the ruffled feathers, and keep the game going. Hey, look, you have chivalry and supremacy. We worship you, and we have given you more stuff, and you are above the rules of the game. Now, will you come back and give us attention and physical affection, pretty please? So, we have enacted all these courtesies for females, where they are pampered and protected by all males. Then, we have legislated enrichments for females, such as divorce entitlements, affirmative action, and lesser sentencing for female criminality. Then, we hold them exempt from consequences for their actions, such as false rape allegations or paternity fraud, or putting their hands on males, any male for any reason. And because we remove females from responsibility in order to elevate and worship them, this leaves males to work, toil, and abuse even more in order to cover the slack and keep civilization functioning. And all this female elevation and placation, all this male devaluation and disposability, all the chivalry, then equality, and now supremacy, all this is done so males can keep their fairy tale alive. All this injustice just to keep the other team playing this ridiculous game that everybody knows is a joke. Males are made to feel inferior to females because they lack a uterus and mammaries. So males have this escape, this fairy tale called romance that is warm and gooey, where they pretend that they have value and that females care about them because there is this special soulmates divine bond between males and females. And if you do not find nirvana with one, try another. There is a wholly perfect half for you out there somewhere. Since we all know that God meant for opposing polarities to merge into one beating heart. Romance. It is the fairy tale that males find delicious refuge in, from the reality that they are all alone and that reproduction values uteruses more than testicles, and that females themselves do not care for male welfare. It is no wonder that males will do anything and everything, including elevation of females and abuse of themselves and their brothers in order to keep their fantasy alive. It's curious how like associates with like. So we have the injustice of male existence. They are made to feel inferior, disposable. So in order to escape that injustice, we create another injustice, where we abuse and disparage males even more as we sacrifice their worth and rights in order to grease the wheels of female elevation and supremacy. Yeah, we create injustice trying to escape injustice. So males have gone from playing the game to putting the other team on their shoulders and running them down the field just to keep these breasted folks in the game at all. Males lifted the feminine to pillars of exalted gold and marble, and they have prostrated and gutted themselves before their uterine-equipped deities in order to keep their fairy tale of romance and female exaltation alive. And, at the end of the day, you know what males got for their money? Females sucked up everything that males gave them and still told dudes to piss off. Males protect and provide for females, and have thrown more entitlements, coddling, and worship at females than ever before, as well as more devaluation and expendability, and females simply smiled and took every entitlement afforded them and still told males to sleep on the couch. Appeasement only makes the aggressor more aggressive, and now females are no longer playing sweet. They are straight up demanding more and more. Romance is dead, and there is a new game in town, female supremacy, where females have entitled visions of themselves as supreme and superior over males, and they demand that males play this new game. They demand males be servants, slaves, submissive bodyguards, obedient manual laborers, and kneeling worshippers. When traditionalism began to fall apart, males tried to compel females into continuing to play the old romance game by sweetening the pot with elevation and entitlements. However, females compel males to play the new game of female supremacy with a different tactic. They are souring the pot, removing their affection and attention unless he acquiesces to everything she demands. Oh, it's easy to keep males playing with this souring technique. It is like taking gear away from a junkie. Females tart themselves up and get males hooked on female attention and validation. Then they say, if you want more, you will obey. So essentially females are giving males a heroin sample and saying, now, if you want more, you will play by my rules in this new game. So, we have a population of sad little doormats who have totally had the tables turned on them and gone from, please come back to playing romance with me, to playing this new game of, give me my fix, please, I'll do anything you say, just don't go away. This is where we currently find humanity. Sorry fellas, romance was fantastic lore all along. It never was real. It is deceased and not coming back. The game is now female exaltation, where males are sucked dry of resource and life force in order to get attention from females, as they secretly try and figure out how they can bring romance back and get females to forget supremacy and come back to playing the romance game, which gives males the luscious warm fuzzies that make them forget their plight as unloved creatures of utility. There is only one possible solution here. If you don't like being a doormat, as coddled stilettos walk all over you, enforce female equality by walking away. But more to the point, give females complete equality. Allow them to do everything for themselves on their own. You see, under the romance prototype, males traded females all the utility and chivalry courtesies in exchange for them playing the subservient, child-raising, cave-cleaning partners in our romantic fantasies. Yet now that they are playing a new game, female supremacy, thus these courtesies are no longer relevant to an archaic romantic game that females walked away from. Gentlemen, stop doing for females. They are big girls now, controlling the game that devalues you. So let them do everything for themselves. If they need your grunting, knuckle-dragging assistance, they will have to pay for it like anyone else. Females showed males the truth by walking away from their traditional romance game. They let males know that romance is a joke and that they do not like male interaction unless it enriches them. They showed males a mirror which reflected back how addicted males really are to feminine salvation. Now it's the fella's turn. Males, it's time to walk away from females and their maliciously abusive female supremacy game and give them an abject dose of reality. Let them know that they depend on males for their very existence. After females get a good mouthful of complete equality and independence, they will come back and start making concessions to the male collective. Concessions that will bestow benefit upon males. Understand this, friends. Males have the upper hand right now, even though it appears to be the exact opposite. Females only have supremacy because males give away their power to them and agree to play the female's gynocentric, hypergamous game. When females began to leave the romance and traditionalist game, they had the upper hand, and males responded by making more and more concessions until females had more rights and privileges than males. If males had not chased females as they left the romance game, there would be no female supremacy game right now. Males enable their own subjugation and value defamation. Honestly, look deep at how things have played out, and really think about it. As females walked away, they were rewarded with more and more. Gee. My brothers, we have the power, right here, right now. As we walk away from females, they will come to realize how much they absolutely depend on us to the point of their very survival. And they will eventually check their own behaviors and begin laying fruit at our feet in order to entice us to play with them again in a new game that is neither romance nor exaltation, but a wholly new game that the human sexes will enact as we try to survive, that of simple barter. Not fantasies nor inequitable abuse. Simple, truthful understandings of gender motivations and honest negotiations of mutual benefit. Unfortunately, there will never be unconditional love or absolute equality and equity between the sexes. Romance cannot be salvaged as any form of truth. We know too much about female motivations to the point that males can only pretend romance and soulmates or Romeo and Juliet forever carved on tree trunks. We are past illusions between the sexes, but we can reach a platform where we negotiate sober contracts and lucid terms to the satisfaction of both parties. Yet, we have already tried this whole barter thing, exchanging utility for attention and reproductive access. And here we are, thousands of years later, and look what it got males: devaluation and disposal. And if we tried to break it down to barter once again, because of gynocentrism, hypergamy, and male weakness for female validation, with all the same motivators of the human animal in play, we would eventually end up at the same place. So perhaps we try a new avenue and strive to get to a technological point where both sexes really need not interact sexually at all. And then females can try and peddle their entitled gynocentric hypergamy to other entitled gynocentric hypergamous females on an entitled gynocentric hypergamous female entitlement island. Good luck with that. Males, the only way to effect change is that you must walk away from females. You have the power right now, and abandoning females is your trump card. Females had males by the balls as they abandoned the fairy tale of romance and playing house. But now, males have females by the ovaries when they abandon females and their game of exaltation, entitlement, and supremacy. Gentlemen, we have the upper hand now, and Exodus is our power. Walk away. Brothers, you are the creative forces of existence. You are that which is relevant, and despite what you have been told, that females are better than you, that females are worth more than you, that females are the only consideration or relevance in our world, despite all the lies and propaganda of male depravity and female purity, despite the elevation of your sisters and the depreciation of yourself. The truth belying all this is that right here, right now, males have the power. Males have always had the power, and all they have to do to exercise their power is to walk away from females and watch the divine feminine come chasing the grotesque masculine, begging them for the time of day. Brothers, the answer to injustice is so simple and humane. Walk away from females. In chess, this is called checkmate. My friends, stand with me, live free.